My next guest is a model who was told she wasn't quite right for Australia, then found herself an instant superstar in Italy. That was almost a decade ago. Since then, we've most definitely reclaimed her. She's been the face of a department store, a gossip column A-lister, and in her parallel acting career, may soon be fighting for our rights in her satin tights. Please welcome Gale.
Italian of you, the double kiss.
Oh, well, you know, I'm quite continental. I was actually going to wear that same outfit, so thank God you rang me before the show.
You have got the pins for it.
I certainly do, and thank you for noticing it. This is true. The number of people that actually mistake me for you is actually...
It's uncanny.
It's nil. I mentioned in the introduction becoming a superstar in Italy. Now, I don't know how many people know this story. It is extraordinary. Let's go back to 1999, before Italy happened.
Yes.
What was your career like in Australia?
It was okay. Definitely nothing to the level I think it is now, obviously. But I was pretty much at the end of what I thought was the end of my career. Prior to that, I'd just done little jobs here and there, very sort of inconsistent bookings, and definitely struggling to pay the bills and having to ask mum and dad for cash, which was obviously not the ideal scenario. But then I was starting to get a little bit more work, and I decided that I would give it one more year.
So the phone rings and somebody says they want you to do an ad for a company in Italy.
Yeah.
You go along to the audition. What are you thinking?
Like everyone else, I just thought, well, you know, and I'd made a point that year, it being my last year, that I wanted to do TV commercials. And so it was definitely a job that I wanted to get. And then I got shortlisted, and it came down to just two of us. And I got it, which was great. And at the time, I just thought, another job. But wasn't the case. It actually changed my life.
Now, as we can all tell, that's an ad for a phone company.
The phone comes in later. Exactly. The reason why it
yes,
it did so well, I think, was because it was like a short film. I was like a Bond girl, and it was that action adventure. And obviously, that's prior to that, TV commercials or phone commercials in Italy did not look like that.
So, OK, this ad gets shown in Italy.
Yeah.
When do you realise that something's going on?
Well, there were a couple of instances. I think about 2 weeks after it aired, we got a call from the phone company themselves saying, look, everyone's just gone nuts for this commercial, and people want to know who Megan is, and we'd love to fly her over for a week, and we want to throw her a party, and we want to have her do interviews. And I thought, oh, OK. So I thought, why not? Never been to Europe, let alone Italy, so I thought I would go over. And as well, a friend of mine who actually looks quite similar to me, and she was modelling over there, she called up and said, if you come over here, you've got to be careful, because people are chasing after me down the streets thinking that I'm you.
Did you speak any Italian when you arrived?
Oh, just 3 words maybe, like ciao and buongiorno, and that's about it.
Oh, so fluently, that's good.
Fluently, yeah. So
you arrive in Rome, never been there before, don't speak the language, and most of the country now know who you are.
Upon landing, as soon as I got to the airport, people were following me and asking for autographs. And this is when you've flown from the other side of the world, don't know the language, never been there, and all of a sudden, 60 million people know who you are.
And you were there on your own?
You don't know them. Totally by myself. Yeah.
That must be a very freaky experience.
It's definitely one of the weirdest things that has ever happened to me. And the whole week itself was... I was treated like a rock star, and I just really couldn't understand why, because all I'd done was a phone commercial.
What kind of responses are you getting?
Paparazzi. I had to have bodyguards that first week. I went to go shopping, and as soon as I'd enter a store, it would just fill up with people, with pens and paper, and people asking me for photos. And I'd never encountered anything like that, because back home I was struggling just to get work. So to have it go from literally one extreme to another practically overnight was crazy. And then just back-to-back interviews, and I'd never done an interview, and I'm speaking to journalists, and they're speaking to me in broken English, and I don't understand what they're saying, and it was just a mad week, a mad time.
To give some sense of what we're talking about here, this is actually from a 60-minute story. This will give you an idea of what it's like to be Megan Gale in Italy.
You really need to see it to understand just how manic the Italians are for Megan. Tonight in Milan, 30,000 of them have come just to watch her host a concert.
Yeah, that was a crazy time.
At the height of all this in Italy, what was it like when you would fly home where you didn't have anywhere near this profile? Was it two completely different worlds?
Oh, it was amazing. I loved it. And it was good to... I just felt like I was getting that normality and I could recharge and psych myself up for going back for more madness. Because as well, while it was mad and crazy and sounds like it was quite overwhelming, I also knew that I'd been given a great opportunity. So I had to take the good with the bad and try and absorb as much normality back home when I could, and then go back and go back into the crazy world again.
Last year, an American magazine listed modelling as one of the 10 worst jobs there is because away from the top end, there's lousy pay and really lousy work conditions. When you were starting out, how tough was it?
Extremely. It was so tough. I pretty much gave my whole life away in Perth to come over, because Perth is, I was very much a big fish in a small pond there. Like I would get a lot of work, but it's a very small market and a lot less money than Sydney.
What was a tough week for you? What was the toughest?
Oh gosh, just literally counting every dollar you have and trying to figure out, okay, now I've got to pay rent and I've got to pay, like everyone does, I guess, when they're struggling. But then on top of it, the expenses that you have for a new model is extremely high, because you've got to get test shots done to build up your portfolio, and then there's composite cards which you hand out when you go for castings, when you're trying to get work, and then you've got to have the right wardrobe, the right haircut, it's really expensive.
So you're living beyond your means.
You are, unless you're making that money back. And that's why I kept having to go back to mum and dad with my tail between my legs and saying, I'm sorry, it's not going so well, can I loan some more money? And it, you know, broke my heart to do that. And luckily I had extremely, and still have extremely supportive parents who understood that. And I think part of them as parents as well, and I really, as you know, having gotten a bit older as well, I really understood their heartache of having their daughter on the other side of the country, and she's struggling and she's sad because she's not making it. And that part of them I know were like, look, just come home, just come home. And I something in my gut's telling me I have to do this, and I have to keep going at it.
Cindy Crawford once said that when she gets up in the morning, even she doesn't look like Cindy Crawford. Do you recognise that statement?
Absolutely. This morning was one of them for me, but luckily, you know, it was. But you know, I thought, thank God for hair and makeup crews, because they can sort of patch it together to look half decent. But there are some mornings where, yeah, it's best not to even go near a mirror.
Well, what do you see when you look in the mirror?
I don't study myself that much in mirrors, to be honest. I think I get so used to seeing my image everywhere that even I almost get sick and tired of seeing myself all the time.
Because your image is your living, to get yourself ready to go out here or some sort of public function.
Yeah.
Are we talking several hours preparation, or is it just something that you can sort of put it together pretty quickly? Oh,
it depends. I mean, I like it to be as quick and easy as possible. I don't like spending hours on getting myself together. For today, for example, I just wanted to do minimal hair and makeup, and I wanted to spend more time concentrating on what I was going to say to you. Because I spent hours on the hair and makeup, so we're a perfect match. Yeah. I'll give you a tip though. You see, beauty is short-lived, ugly lasts forever. And you don't have to work on it at all. It's great. It's a very consistent thing. So if you want to take some stress out of your life, try my way. I think as well, you know what, I think because modelling is very much, so much is concentrated on the exterior and the outside part of yourself, that I've really, you know, acknowledged that that is just such a small facet of it, and you can't take it too seriously, and you can't, because every time as well, especially in the beginning, whenever I didn't get a modelling job, it was because something about me physically wasn't right, whether it was I was too tall, too short, wrong hair colour, wrong eye colour, not thin enough, whatever it was. I knew that I wasn't the prettiest girl, I knew I wasn't the skinniest girl, and I was aware of that, but I thought, no, I've got a lot more to offer as a person and with how professional I am, and I just wanted someone else to see that and give me a go. I want to show you a bit from America's Next Top Model, and I want you to tell me if this photo shoot, if you ever found yourself in an equally weird situation.
The shoot is, you girls are all going to be crime scene victims.
It's a great picture. The look in your face is just extraordinary. I mean, very beautiful and dead. It's the first photograph I've seen of you where you actually look like a fashion model.
That's what I was going for.
I remember that episode, and
Yeah.
I remember thinking, I've never seen a shoot like that, ever. I've no idea why they did. I mean, there's a lot of shoots that are created like that on these shows that just never happen.
What is the weirdest shoot you ever found yourself in?
Most of them have been pretty normal. Probably the weirdest situations I've actually been in twice is a photographer trying to get me to get my gear off and try to take advantage of me, and that really freaked me a bit, because I was pretty young.
What do you do in that situation?
Well, first of all, I think it was really an abuse of trust. It was, first time it happened, one time it happened when I was about 19 and I was in Sydney, and I went to his house to do a test shoot. And we'd done the shoot, and then the hair and makeup person had left, and I was still getting my things together, and he said, look, I'll do another couple of rolls of film for free. And I was like, excellent, because I was penny pinching at the time. And he said, I think we'll go outside, let's go up to the rooftop. We went up to the rooftop of his apartment, and then he just gradually just started saying, why don't you just lose the top? Why don't you just... I was like, no, I can drop the shoulder strap, but... And he just kept going and going and going, and I won't repeat what he said, but he was getting very sexually explicit with me, and it made me extremely uncomfortable, and then he could see that I was about to cry, and he went, OK, that's probably enough. And I just sort of, you know, felt awful and grabbed my stuff and fled. But, yeah, there's definitely situations where you feel quite vulnerable, and I worry about some girls who are modelling when they're teenagers, and it's a very adult world. It's a really adult world, and to be there without a guardian or a parent sometimes, and in these instances I was 19 and 23. So I thought I was capable of handling it, and I did, but I really worry about some girls who are a lot younger that get themselves into these situations.
The age question is interesting because fame came slowly to you and later to you, and you found that hard to handle. When you look at these 14, 15, 16-year-olds who have been thrust into this world, what do you think?
Oh gosh, I don't know how they handle it. I barely handled it at 23, and I thank God that it happened to me later, into my 20s. And you'll very rarely find someone where the fame and fortune and it hits them at 14 that they're still going at 30 and 35. Usually it burns out pretty quickly because, you know, sometimes these girls are earning insane amounts of money and they're travelling around the world and they don't have any guidance or anyone looking after them, and it's quite easy to not know what to do in those kind of adult situations when you're a teenager. There is no way I'd let my 14-year-old daughter travel around the world by herself.
At the fashion show, International Fashion Show in Sydney earlier this year, there was a young girl called Monica who at 14 was told she was too young to be on the catwalk.
Yeah.
We've got an image of her here on cover girl of Harper's Bazaar magazine. She's 14.
Yeah.
Do you think it's healthy for a young girl like that to be held up as an ideal of womanhood?
Well, everyone has a different opinion. I personally don't see a problem with girls that young modelling if they're modelling for 14-year-olds.
But that's
They're
not.
modelling for a magazine that is targeted between women between the ages of 30 and 40. I don't get it. I should be on the cover, actually. But anyway, that's another story, being 33. But I think it's unrealistic for women between the ages of 30 and 40 to go, oh, yes, well, she's 14, I can aspire to that. It's unrealistic.
The other issue which you touched on is the question of weight. The winner of Australia's Next Top Model, the last one was Alice Bordeaux. We have a picture of her here.
Yeah.
Now, reportedly, almost half the finalists in that contest they measured in body mass index now, and 18.5 is healthy. Anything below that is not, and more than half the models reportedly were heading towards the anorexic range. They've started to introduce in England, for instance, they have a bottom body mass index that if you go below that, you can't be a model. Do you think that's the way to go?
I think it's great. It's good to see that people in the fashion industry are starting to take responsibility for that.
When you were young and you had pressures on you to lose weight because, unbelievably, you were too fat. Look at you, you poor you. How much did you buy into that?
To be honest, initially I felt the pressure a lot. And that's when Kate Moss had just started, and that kind of waif, heroin chic look was massive. So clearly you look at me and you look at Kate Moss, you know, night and day. So it made it very hard for me to get the work that I wanted to get. And it wasn't like anyone said to me, well, you can't model because you're too fat. It was like, you're going to do extremely well if you just lose a couple of kilos.
correct me if I'm wrong, did you spend a lot of time thinking about how do I get my... Constantly.
Constantly. Of course, Italy love the curves, and I was perfect for that market, which is why I think I did so well there. And then for some reason, I got embraced for it back home, but I still hadn't changed. So it was quite bizarre.
You know the film Zoolander, which is about a male model, where he has a special look called blue steel, which is his look. Do you have a blue steel look?
Oh my God, I've got about 500.
OK, I'll be the camera.
Oh,
come on.
no!
Okay. Here we go. All right, come on, give it to me, baby. Give me blue steel. Give me love. Give me anger. Give me civil war.
I can't just turn it on when I...
Come on. Give me the Egyptian pyramids.
I'll give
Come
you
on.
one.
There we go. No, come on here.
But that's not really it. It's not the environment.
OK, no, come on. I'll give you a moment.
OK.
OK.
But you're giving me one, so that's just throwing me off.
Well, I'll give you
Or is
mine.
that your normal look? Oh, you've thrown me now. I've got to have a sip of water.
I'll get you back on
making
track.
me blush.
Because in the catwalk, on the catwalk in Italy, you did something which was unusual. You smiled.
I smiled.
Yeah, why was that so unusual?
I'm so happy to be working, probably.
But why would other people
I'm at
smile?
work. I don't know. I think there is, and it happens here in Australia a lot too. Just people, girls look grumpy, and I'm thinking, but you're working. You
Because
should
they're
be
bloody
wrapped.
hungry. That's why.
Yeah, there's no one there that says scowl or be angry. Or
Yeah.
I mean, I think you don't necessarily need to have a big cheesy grin, but I think just a little twinkle or a sparkle in the eye and something a bit that makes people notice you. Otherwise, people are seriously sitting in the audience going, gosh, that girl looks really cranky or really upset, and they're not looking at the clothes. So for me, it's about making everything look good.
Do you have a trick to keep yourself smiling?
Oh, no, not really. I just
Yes, you do.
tend to do it when it comes
Yes,
out.
you do.
Having your boyfriend in the front row helps sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah, well, let's talk about this boyfriend, shall
Oh,
we?
gosh, here we go. When I met Andy, I think he thought that I would be this model and she's a nice girl, but, you know, she's a model. I think he thought, like a lot of people probably think, that she's got this champagne lifestyle and jets around and you know, spends her time in swanky hotels and hanging out with famous people, that kind of image.
And don't you?
Until he realised that I would much prefer to be at the footy with a beer. And then when he realised that side of me was the reality, then it was all systems go.
You said, by the way, this is Andy Lee, who's on the radio with Hamish Blake. You said that at the time that you pursued him because he thought he wouldn't be interested in you. Why did you think that?
I pursued him. I more felt that he needed a bit of a nudge. And it was true. I think if I had left it up to him, we wouldn't be together. He thought that someone like me, again, someone like me who he believes to be me, wouldn't be interested in someone like him.
So what are your methods of pursuit?
Well, usually for me, I'm usually quite shy and don't really like to be the one that... It takes a lot for me to really put myself out there. Because to me, it's not important who you are or so much what you do. It's who you are, and that's how you have to really bond. And I think, and initially when we started dating, I was surprised at how much shock there was that we were together.
Did you, as part of your seduction technique, just turn up in tracky dacks with a tinny? And hey!
No, but we did have a couple of beers when we hung out, because we'd seen each other around the traps for a while, and I initially, I'll give you a brief version of the story, but I'd been on his radio show, and when I first saw him and thought he was a bit cute, I'd just come out of a relationship, and I really didn't want to be with anyone, and I needed to be by myself. But he always just stayed in my mind, and I kept seeing him. And then about 3 months later, I went on the show again, and this time I thought, I might be ready to start dating. But he wasn't really giving me anything. So it was like, oh, this is going to be difficult. And then we were at Derby Day in Melbourne at the races, and I knew he was going, and I looked for him all day. And I couldn't find him. And then towards the end of the day, I finally tracked him down, and I said, well, let's have a drink. You know, I've just got to go. I've got to do one interview, and then I'll come back. And he was like, yeah, I'm probably going to head off. And I was like, oh, OK. if you just wait a few minutes, I'll be back. And luckily he waited. And I think Hamish said to me, "You an idiot? You have to wait and see what happens. Let's just see what she wants."
Because the minute you left the room,
Hamish.
Andy turned and went, "Megan Gale,
I don't know. He's pretty chill. I don't think he would have. But he waited, and then we had a few drinks, and we exchanged numbers, and then I thought it might be good to hang out and just see where it goes, and it ended up turning into a relationship.
You've signed up to do Wonder Woman in the George Miller film Justice League.
Ooh, yeah.
They're big, shiny boots to fill. Does that make you nervous?
Oh, no. I quite look forward to that. It still makes my head spin to think about how all that happened, because it happened very rapidly, and I had no idea that was coming at all.
How did it happen?
Oh, gosh. Well, it was a funny time, actually, because it was September of last year, and I'd just decided that I was going to retire from modelling and from the catwalk. And I wasn't quite sure what I wanted to do next. So I was in the process of getting a lot of the material together from Italy and stuff I had done in Australia, and trying to put a show reel together and trying to prepare myself to think about tackling LA when I get a call. And it's from a casting agent saying, "George Miller wants to see you for an audition for a film he's doing." And I was like, "Oh, okay." Then I said, "What's it for?" He said, "We can't tell you anything about the film." I said, "Okay, well, what's the role?" "We can't tell you anything about that." I said, "Okay." So, when I initially went to the first reading...
And before this, you're thinking, Babe 3, that bastard.
Exactly. But no, I had no... Because it was all so top secret, this film, that I had no idea of what I was going for. And while I was getting ready, though, and this is the weird thing, is that I had the words Wonder Woman just go across my mind, and I have no explanation why. And then I went to the casting about an hour later, went to the audition, and they sat down and they said, "Well, so you know nothing about the film?" And I said, "No, I don't know anything." And they said, "Okay, well, it's a movie and it's about all the superheroes." And I said, "Right." I said, "Am I here for Wonder Woman?" And she went, "Yeah, you are." I was like, "Oh,
wow,
this is bizarre."
Why have you always loved her?
Because she was just that epitome of... she was powerful, and she was strong, and she was kind, and she was gentle, and she was nurturing, and had a maternal side to her, and just had all the ideal qualities of being that perfect ideal woman.
You've retired from the catwalk. You've gone through the giant cat flap at the back of the catwalk.
That's cute.
What are you going to miss about it, and what aren't you going to miss?
It wasn't saying goodbye to the act of doing catwalking itself, because, as I said, I'd long gotten used to that because it'd been a thought in my mind for a while. It was saying goodbye to a 15-year phase of your life, and saying goodbye to the people that you work with, and the bonds that you formed, and the memories that you share, and saying goodbye to that whole part of my life. That was the thing that I probably did miss and do miss now, and the thing that probably that I got a little emotional about. But having said that, I know that the direction where I want to go now and where I want to be in my life is definitely... I'm definitely done with that. I've kind of done all I can do, and I'm more interested in where the next phase is going to take me.
Which is, of course, the Megan Gale tracky decks, which are coming out shortly.
Of course, with matching Uggs.
I actually have an idea for a formal tracksuit called the Traxedo. Which you know, we can talk about this after.
Well, yeah, we could collaborate on something maybe.
I know you've got to hop on a plane. Last question. You've spent the last 15 years being encouraged to think about every calorie, every wrinkle, every millimetre of your body. How are you going to handle ageing?
I just look at my mum, and she's ageing extremely well, and she's, you know, she's so lovely, and because she's on the inside, she just glows. And I think if I can aspire to be how she's like how she is, and hopefully I'll follow in her footsteps. But it's not something that I think about a lot. Ageing, not at all.
That doesn't surprise me somehow. Megan Gale, lovely to talk to you.
Thank you
very
so
much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Everything you want to know about this program is available on our website, abc.net.au/enoughrope, including tacky merchandise. Actually, that's not true, but we should get some. Next week on the show, the very funny Bill Bailey. Until then, have a good week. Good night.
Join us on Thursday as a young Australian embarks on a voyage of cultural exploration in Armenia, in Family Footsteps, 8:30 Thursday night on ABC One.
From the BBC, journey across China and discover the breathtaking beauty of one of the world's most mysterious and diverse countries.
There are still many wild places that have so far remained largely intact.
Wild China explores this complex land and its unique and endangered wildlife, from the Himalayas to searing hot deserts. Wild China on DVD from ABC shops, ABC centres, retailers and online.
Next on Foreign Correspondence, I'll be reporting from here in Chicago. It's a tough town where politics is played brutally hard and fast. It's also the place where presidential contender Barack Obama cut his political teeth.
It's a good time to be in Chicago.
Now, is he a bad guy? No. Is he a corrupt guy? I can't say.
Obama and the Chicago Way. That's next on Foreign Correspondence, 9:30 tomorrow, ABC One.
Tomorrow night at 7:30, the annual car race helping a tiny country town to stay alive.
It's the only thing that keeps our facilities going.
It's a festival event. It's a lot of laid-back fun. There's a whole lot of camaraderie.
That's tomorrow night, 7:30.
I think it's an enormously privileged job to be in, because whether you like it or not, your own mind is going to stay alert and you remain alive to the big challenges of life.
Tonight, School of Hard Knocks.
It appears that there could be up to 20,000 Australian children of school age who do not regularly attend school. We want to fix that statistic.
The Rudd government moves to penalise parents who don't send their children to school.
I suspect that this is something dreamt up by some of the hollow men advisors in Mr Rudd's office on Friday to start off the sitting week, and we'll be very interested to see what the detail is in this.
Good evening, welcome to Lateline. I'm Lee Sales. It sometimes feels like the United States presidential election campaign has been running forever, but the real action is only just beginning. During the next fortnight, both parties hold their conventions, the Democrats first in Denver and then the Republicans in Minneapolis. Polls in the US currently have the two candidates, Barack Obama and John McCain, close to a dead heat. But with a little over 2 months until voting day, that can certainly change. Tonight, one of John McCain's foreign policy advisors, Ralph Peters, joins me live in Sydney. That's coming up, but first, our other headlines. Was it worth the price of admission? The world waits to see the longer-term impact of the Olympics on China. We'll assess what an increased stake in Rio Tinto means for the Chinese aluminium giant Chinalco. And on Lateline Business, the big shake-up. Australia's dairy industry set for a radical change. It's been a torrid start to the spring session of Parliament for Kevin Rudd. During the 8-week winter break, his backbench seems to have discovered a new feistiness over plans to strip welfare payments from parents whose children skip school. And that's not all they're heated up about, as Dana Robertson reports from Canberra.
19 guns, for a visiting president, not the army of politicians returning to Parliament. But after 8 weeks away, the swords are unsheathed and ready for